The MK1 Yaris is now 20 years old. In this time, we have found common issues that go wrong with them. In the Yaris guide, we're going to be looking at the most common places they rust. We're starting off the rust guide with the rear sills. This is the most common spot for Yarises to rust, and this is bad because they are a very important structural part of the car. This rear axle here that holds your back wheels on, does the back suspension. So there's 4 points where this actually attaches to your car. You've got the attachment point of the rear beam, where it mounts onto the sills. Then you've got the shock absorber mounting points. So yeah, basically you've got a lot of stress going over this whole area here, where this rear beam mounts up. There's a lot of torquing, a lot of twisting, a lot of pulling on these points in here. So if your rear sill is gone, this weakens the whole back end of the car quite significantly. And if your sills are really rusty, then your rear axle can actually detach from the car. I've got plenty of videos on the channel of me doing rust repairs on the sills to certain different extents. These ones were done 2 years ago. They were done relatively quickly, and it still took me about 2 weeks. It's quite a big in-depth job. Plus I was very lucky that the actual mounting points for like the bolts and everything on there wasn't too bad, so I had to repair the outer, then the two inner structures, then followed by the rear. So you can check those videos out if you want to see what goes into actually repairing this area. Every time I've welded the rear ends on these cars, I've actually felt a major difference in the way the car feels on the back end. This one felt loose, and it just didn't feel as if the back end was doing the stuff that I wanted it to do, but after welding it, it actually improved it way more. It was actually a crazy amount of difference. So the sills tend to rust from the inside out. This is due to water getting stuck in the sills. I do believe there is drainage points along the seam of the sills, but I can't confirm this because none of my Yarises have ever had good sills. And obviously as the metal's sitting there damp, moist, it slowly rusts it away. Another reason as well is that no additional cavity wax gets put in these. So if you've got a clean one that's got good sills in it, I'd recommend you take the bungs out, give it a good clean inside. I'm sure there's a bung in the back of here as well that'll be good to get into. Give it a good clean out the outsides and then spray it all down with cavity wax, and that should make it last a lot longer. Also, I'd like to add as an additional note that the rear beams themselves like to snap right around here. So I've not had a Yaris that has snapped the rear beam, but I have seen some. So this is a failure point on them. They get weak, they rust, and then they snap, and then you've got mad camber. But yeah, so that's another thing to kind of look out for whilst you're looking at the rear. Strut tops. Now this is a really easy one to see, especially if you're looking at photos of Yarises online, because you can see the strut tops from the engine bay photos. So these tend to more or less go on the left hand side if you're looking from the engine bay than the right, but they do on the right. Usually this is quite a good indication if you're looking at a Yaris and you can see that that's rusty there. You can almost guarantee that the sills are also going to be rusty. This area tends to rust from the wheel arch into the engine bay. This can be caused by dirt not being cleaned out of the wheel arches. This can also be down to the body protection from factory failing and not protecting the metal behind it. This needs caught early, cleaned up, and new stone chip protection reapplied. This isn't too bad of an area for a welder to fix up because you can get right into there and you don't really need to move a whole lot out. On the other side it would be a different question because you've obviously got the ABS pump there and stuff like that, but this side seems to be better on both my cars. I have seen people scrap their cars over this area here. Also, another reason is if you don't keep this area nice and clean, especially if you've been out on salty roads and stuff like that, I recommend cleaning like the underneath in your arches like 4 times a year. Even if you just get like a wheel brush up in there and just give it a good clean out and all sorts of stuff. You've got like the general kind of issue of the tyre flicking up water as well, and it gets all up in here, so everything stays kind of wet and damp. Mix that with some road salt, mix that with some heat, and you've got a nice catalyst for rust to start. Also, what doesn't help is if you're like me and you have a lowered suspension on the car, you reduce the wheel arch gap. It actually stops the evacuation of all the pressures and the spray, the water spray, and just even the air. This is also the same on the rear, which is quite funny because we're now going to the The rear wheel arches. These rust weird. So when you're going along, especially if you've got a lowered car like mine, there's a lot of pressure inside the wheel arch because the wheel is spinning around and round and round. When you're throwing up water and stuff like that as well, this pressure needs to find somewhere to go. If you reduce the wheel arch gap by lowering your car, this can trap the pressures in there more, giving it less areas to vent out. So what happens is that the sealant inside the wheel arch fails, and then the water gets forced through the cracks in the sealant, which then travels up between the two pieces of metal. This means that there is moisture stuck between the two pieces of metal, and this can lead to it rusting out. Another reason for this area to rust is also if you do not clean your arches out. The build-up of mud means that moisture can sit inside the mud and the panel will stay damp all the time. This leads to it rusting out. This area can also rust due to the factory undercoating and stone chip failing, just like the front shock towers. So I have this rust on both of my French build Yarises. I've seen it on a few other people's Yarises. I can't remember if they were Japanese built or French built, but I reckon this will happen to most Yarises, hence why it's number 3 on the list. So if you're looking at a Yaris, you can take off the rear shock access panel and the light panel and you can get in there. So that's an easy way to look at that without having to take the whole back panel off. And that leads us on to the next area that we need to look at for rust. The outside rear of the wheel arch. So I've noticed on a few Yarises, the outside along here tends to bubble and rust away, and then the inside of the lip goes as well. Here on my Yaris here, with 150,000 miles on it, the rust has started here, where the bumper meets up. The bumper's not been correctly fitted, and it's been sitting rubbing over the years, and then it starts a tiny little blister of rust which travels all the way along here. So apart from the bumper being one of the main reasons why it rusts in the corner, the other reason is that people just don't clean the inside of the wheel arches. So yeah, if you leave lots of mud and everything up on the inside of this wheel arch, then that mud just stays in there, it holds moisture, and then it rusts out the wheel arch. So yeah, another reason why you should clean your wheel arches out often as possible. Another area the outside wheel arch rusts from is with inside here, which I cannot get the camera in. So basically the same concept again, where the water from the inside of the wheel arches is getting in there, and it's rusting. So that's the 4 most common areas where these Mark 1 Yarises seem to rust from my experience. But I have some runners up, and here they are. Subframe mounting points. Boot floors under the seats. Wheel wells. Also the sides of the wheel wells. Rear chassis legs. Driver's and passenger's footwell. So there we go. There's all the places that Yarises tend to rust. If there's anywhere you think that rusts, or you have experience where they have rust, and I haven't covered it in this video, leave a comment so people can find out and learn about these things. If you've made it this far in the video, then you must have enjoyed it, so leave a like, leave a comment, share it even if you want to. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. This has been the Yarust Guide.